The passbook slid across the dining table like trash. My brother laughed once, short, cruel. "This passbook means zero," he said, tapping the cover with his finger. Grandpa didn't blink. He just folded his trembling hands and stayed silent. That silence was louder than the laugh. The room smelled of expensive food and cheap arrogance. Crystal glasses, white tablecloth. My brother's gold watch caught the light every time he moved his wrist, on purpose. He wanted us to see it. He always did. His wife smirked. Eyes already bored, already victorious. To them, this dinner wasn't family. It was a stage. I sat 2 chairs away from Grandpa, watching his shoulders shrink inch by inch. "Come on, Dad," my brother said, leaning back. "You really thought a savings passbook was a gift. It's 2026. Who even uses these anymore?" Grandpa cleared his throat. "It's not about the money," he said softly. That's when the laugh turned ugly. "Oh please," my brother snapped. "I run 3 companies. I just closed a 7-figure deal last month. And you give me this?" He flicked the passbook again. "You embarrassed me?" I felt something twist in my chest. But I stayed quiet. I had learned long ago, silence keeps you invisible. Grandpa reached for the passbook, but my brother pulled it back. No, he said. "Let's see what this joke is worth." He opened it. His smile widened. 5,000. He read aloud. "That's it." Then, louder, so everyone could hear. "This passbook means zero." Grandpa's hands shook now. His eyes didn't. That was the moment I saw it, the thing my brother missed. Grandpa wasn't ashamed, he was waiting. I knew that look. I'd seen it once before years ago, when a man tried to cheat him out of land he'd owned since before I was born. Everyone thought Grandpa was weak then too. Old, slow, harmless? They were wrong. The waiter hovered nearby, uncomfortable. The room felt tight, like it was holding its breath. "You always favored him," my brother continued, pointing at me without looking. "The quiet one. The useless one. What does he even do?" "Nothing. That was my advantage." I stared down at my plate, counting breaths. 1, 3. Rage is loud when it's young. Power is quiet when it's ready. Grandpa finally spoke again. The table went silent. My brother scoffed. "Why? So they can laugh too?" "No," Grandpa said. "So you can withdraw it?" That made him grin. "Fine," he said, standing up. "I'll go. And when they tell me this is nothing, don't say I didn't warn you." He tossed the passbook onto the table and walked out, already dialing his phone. His wife followed, heels clicking like punctuation marks at the end of a sentence. Period. Finished. Done. Or so they thought. That night, I helped Grandpa to his room. His steps were slow, but his mind sharp. Always sharp. "They think you're weak," I said quietly. He smiled. "Just a little," he replied. "Let them." The next morning, the bank lobby was bright and cold and full of people who believed money made them untouchable. My brother walked in like he owned the building. Sunglasses on. Phone pressed to his ear loud. "I'm at the bank," he said. Yeah. About to cash out some ancient joke. The clerk took the passbook, typed something, then paused. Paused too long, her smile stiffened. "1 moment, sir." My brother rolled his eyes. "Take your time. It's not like it's worth anything." She stood up. The manager came out instead. A tall man, calm. "Serious, sir," the manager said, lowering his voice. "Could you please step into my office?" My brother laughed. "For this?" He waved the passbook. "Sure." Inside the office, the air changed. The manager closed the door. Then he locked it. My brother's smile faded just a little. "I need to ask you something?" the manager said carefully. "Do you know who opened this account?" "My father," my brother replied. "Unfortunately." The manager nodded. Then turned the screen toward him. "This account," he said, "is not a savings account." My brother leaned forward. "What do you mean?" The manager's finger hovered over the mouse, then clicked. "This is a holding account." My brother's throat went dry. "A what?" The manager's voice stayed even. "A temporary holding account connected to 3 fixed assets, 2 trusts, and 1 dormant corporate structure." The room felt smaller. "That's not possible," my brother said. "There's only 5,000 in it." The manager met his eyes. "That 5,000, he said, was the key?" The printer behind them suddenly came alive. Page after page after page. My brother stood up slowly. "What is this?" The manager didn't answer right away. He picked up the phone instead. Yes, he said into it. Freeze everything. My brother's heart slammed against his ribs. Freeze what? He demanded. The manager hung up. Then, finally, he spoke. Every account connected to your name, he said. Every company. Every asset. My brother staggered back a step. That's a mistake, he whispered. The manager shook his head. No, he said. It's a request from the original owner. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. My father is old, my brother said. He doesn't understand finance. The manager's eyes were cold now. He understands it very well, he replied. He designed this. Outside the office, phones began to ring. My brother's phone buzzed. Once, twice, then nonstop. He didn't answer. Somewhere else in the city, Grandpa sat calmly at the dining table, tea steaming in front of him. Hands steady. And me, I finally smiled. Not because it was over, but because it had only just begun. My brother's phone slipped from his hand and hit the carpet without a sound that mattered. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. For the first time in his life, words abandoned him. Outside the glass office walls, the bank no longer looked neutral. It looked hostile. Clerks whispered. A security guard shifted closer. Screens refreshed with red warnings only managers ever see. This is illegal, my brother finally said, voice cracking as he tried to stitch authority back into himself. You can't just. The manager raised one finger. Please, he said. That finger carried more power than my brother's entire empire. He sat. You see. The manager continued, pulling another file from a drawer. Your father didn't just save money. He prepared for war. My brother swallowed. 28 years ago, the manager said. Your father came here after being pushed out of his own company by people he trusted. Family included. My brother's jaw tightened. He didn't fight them loudly, the manager went on. He disappeared. Opened accounts no one cared about. Registered shells that looked worthless. Gave control to names nobody respected. The manager tapped the passbook. Like this? My brother stared at it now as if it were a loaded weapon. That 5,000 was never money, the manager said. It was a signal. My brother's phone buzzed again. This time he answered. What? He snapped. A voice screamed from the other and hear it faintly through the glass. O u aziki arfrauzans or tage porali anal didn't gio tacharo yh gh board ice bakanji. My brother's face drained of color. Fix it, he hissed. I'm at the bank. There was a pause. Then one sentence landed like a bullet. They're saying you don't own the companies anymore. My brother slowly lowered the phone. What? He whispered. The manager slid another document forward. Clause 17, he said. Contingent transfer of control upon confirmation of moral breach. My brother laughed. A thin, desperate sound. Moral breach. What is this? A chirp. The manager didn't smile. Public humiliation of the principal, he said. Recorded insult. Witnesses present. Trigger verified. My brother's eyes widened. You recorded dinner? He asked. The manager tilted his head slightly. No, he said. Your nephew did? That was me. I wasn't in the bank. I was across town. Sitting in Grandpa's old study, the one everyone forgot existed. Dusty shelves. Faded photos. A desk with scratches from a time when work was done by hand, not assistants. My laptop was open. The video played again. My brother's voice, loud and clear. This passbook means 0. The timestamp glowed in the corner. I forwarded it to one more address. Sent. Back at the bank, my brother stood up so fast his chair toppled. I want to see my father, he said. Now. The manager nodded. He's expecting you. The house felt different when my brother arrived. Smaller. Quieter. Like it had shed weight. His wife wasn't with him this time. He pushed through the front door without knocking. Dad, he shouted. Grandpa sat in his chair by the window, sunlight cutting across his face like a blade. He looked peaceful. Untouchable. You planned this, my brother said, breathless. You set me up. Grandpa sipped his tea. I gave you a gift, he said. You told me what it was worth. My brother's hands trembled. You took everything? No, Grandpa replied calmly. I took back what was mine. I stepped out of the shadows then. My brother froze when he saw me. He spat. You always hide behind him. I met his eyes for the first time in years. No, I said quietly. I learned from him. Grandpa gestured to the chair opposite him. Sit, he said. My brother hesitated, then sat. You built your life on the idea that I was weak, Grandpa continued. That age made me stupid. That silence meant surrender. My brother looked away. I let you believe that, Grandpa said. Because arrogance grows best when it's fed. I watched my brother shrink, inch by inch, just like Grandpa had at the dinner table. The symmetry was almost beautiful. You embarrassed me, my brother muttered. In front of everyone. Grandpa's voice hardened for the first time. You embarrassed yourself? He said. I only held up a mirror. My brother stood again, desperation flooding his face. Give it back, he pleaded. The companies, the accounts, I'll apologize. Grandpa raised his hand. No. One word. Final? You don't understand, my brother said, panic cracking through. Without those assets, I'm exposed. People will come after me? Grandpa nodded. Yes. Silence stretched. You taught them how to use fear, Grandpa said. Now you can live with it. My brother turned to me. You did this? He said. You recorded me. You sent it. I didn't deny it. You always looked weak, he said bitterly. Like him. I leaned in close enough for only him to hear. We learned how to wait. His eyes flicked away. Then another. Then voices. My brother stiffened. Who is that? I checked my phone. Creditors? I said. Former partners. A journalist. Grandpa smiled faintly. You see, he said, standing slowly, revenge doesn't need speed. The knocking grew louder. My brother backed toward the door. Trapped between the past and the present. Dad, he whispered, breaking. Please. Grandpa looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, now you know what zero feels like. The door handle began to turn, and still, it wasn't over. The door creaked open before my brother could decide whether to run or beg. The first face that appeared wasn't angry. That was the cruel part, it was calm, calculating. A man who smelled weakness like blood in water. Mr. Raman, the man said smoothly. We need to talk. Behind him stood two more men, a woman with a tablet. And someone holding a camera just low enough to pretend it wasn't recording. My brother's world narrowed to a tunnel. This is a private residence, he snapped, grasping for the tone that once bent rooms to his will. The woman glanced at her screen. Not when assets tied to public companies and investor funds are involved. Grandpa stepped forward, placing himself between them, not protectively, but ceremonially. Like a judge approaching the bench. He doesn't speak for the estate anymore, Grandpa said. The man smiled thinly. We know. That word, no, landed heavier than any accusation. My brother turned to Grandpa. Eyes wild. You set me up to be eaten. Grandpa didn't flinch. No, he replied. I stopped feeding you. The camera lens tilted up. Mr. Raman, the journalist said gently. Is it true your companies were held in trust under your father's name? My brother's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. No comment, he said. But silence was no longer his ally. It had defected. Phones buzzed again, mine, Grandpa's, even the house phone that hadn't rung in years. Falling dominoes. Headlines being drafted. Ramp. De executará despedidero si case ndstry familiutarest. Tiragars carpar if. Baguio rail YOWND THEME. My brother backed away from the door, bumping into the wall. His reflection stared back at him from the glass cabinet, eyes sunken. Suit wrinkled, king without a crown. You can fix this, he said to Grandpa, voice cracking into something almost childlike. You always fix things. Grandpa's expression softened, not with mercy but with clarity. I fixed the future, he said. Not your pride. The men stepped inside now. Papers appeared, pens clicked. Words like liability, misrepresentation, fiduciary breach floated through the air like smoke. My brother slid down into a chair he hadn't been offered. This was my life, he whispered. I spoke before I could stop myself. It was borrowed. He looked up at me sharply. You think you're better than me now, he spat. You think this makes you powerful. I shook my head. No, it makes me free. That seemed to hurt more than anything. One of the men cleared his throat. We'll need you to come with us, Mr. Raman. Just to answer a few questions. My brother laughed, a broken sound. Questions? He echoed. After everything I built. Grandpa corrected him gently. After everything you stood on. The men waited, they were patient. They always are when time is on their side. My brother stood slowly. straightening his jacket out of habit. Old reflexes die hard. As he reached the door, he paused. "Dad," he said without turning. "Did you ever love me?" The room held its breath. Grandpa answered honestly. "I loved the boy you were. I mourned the man you chose to become." My brother closed his eyes. Then he was gone. The door shut. The house exhaled. For a long moment, neither Grandpa nor I spoke. Sunlight shifted on the floor, moving the line of brightness just enough to touch his feet. "You okay?" I asked quietly. He nodded. "I am now." I believed him. But peace never arrives alone, it brings echoes. 3 days later, the city buzzed with speculation. Analysts debated ownership structures. News anchors argued about ethics. Social media sharpened its knives. My brother's face was everywhere. Mine was nowhere. Exactly as planned. I sat in a conference room downtown. Glass walls, steel table, 12 empty chairs. At the far end, a screen displayed a list of companies. Our companies now, though no one knew it yet. The door opened. The same bank manager entered, nodding respectfully. "They're ready? So am I," I said, moments later. The board members filed in. Some looked annoyed, some curious, one or two already nervous. They didn't expect me. "Where's your brother?" one asked. I smiled politely. Murmurs rippled. I tapped the remote. The screen changed. "Let's start with clause 17, I said calmly. Faces stiffened. For the next hour, I didn't raise my voice, I didn't threaten, I didn't boast, I explained. I showed documents, signatures, timelines. Safeguards Grandpa had planted decades ago like mines beneath soft earth. By the time I finished, no one interrupted. "So?" I concluded, "You have 2 options. Cooperate with the transition, or explain to regulators why you didn't notice who actually owned what you were profiting from." Silence. Then one man cleared his throat. "And your authority?" I slid a single page across the table. Grandpa's signature, dated, effective now. They read it again and again. One by one they nodded. The meeting ended without applause. Power never claps. It simply moves. That night Grandpa and I sat on the porch. Crickets sang. The air smelled like rain and old wood. "You didn't hesitate," he said. "No," I replied. "I waited." He smiled. "I taught you one thing well," he said. "You taught me everything," I answered. He shook his head. "No. I taught you patience. You taught yourself courage." We sat in comfortable silence. Somewhere across the city, my brother sat in a room with no windows, answering questions he used to ask others, explaining numbers he used to manipulate, feeling small in a way he never allowed himself to imagine. I didn't feel joy about that. I felt completion. But even that wasn't the end. Because revenge, when done right, doesn't explode. It tightens. Quietly, relentlessly. And it was still tightening. The tightening began where no cameras pointed. My brother learned first when the lawyers stopped returning calls. Not abruptly, politely. Emails that once came back in minutes now took days, then never. Meetings were postponed. Favors expired. Old allies suddenly remembered old debts. In the holding room downtown, fluorescent lights hummed like insects. A junior investigator slid a folder across the table and spoke without emotion. "We need clarification on several transfers," he said. My brother stared at the folder. "Those were standard." "Standard," the investigator repeated, flipping a page, for someone who thought no one would ever look. My brother's jaw clenched. He said nothing. Silence again, only now, it wasn't a weapon he controlled. Across town, the companies changed tone overnight. Logos stayed the same, but everything else shifted. Offices felt quieter. People stopped whispering my brother's name like it carried power. They whispered mine instead, carefully, uncertainly. I walked through one building unannounced. Heads lifted. Conversations stopped. No one blocked me. That told me everything. At my desk, I opened a drawer I'd never touched before. Inside a single envelope, yellowed, sealed, addressed to whoever finally pays attention. Grandpa's handwriting. Inside was a letter, short and surgical. "Power rots when it's worshipped. Use it like fire contained, necessary, dangerous only to those who disrespect it." No signature. He never signed lessons. The media cycle turned vicious. When it realized outrage wouldn't move Grandpa, it pivoted to curiosity. Analysts praised the genius of the trust structure. Commentators argued whether it was cruel or brilliant. None of them mentioned the dinner. None of them saw the moment everything truly shifted. That moment lived only in my brother's memory, replaying every night when sleep refused him. His laugh, the flick of his finger, the word zero echoing louder each time. Words can become prisons if you build them well. A week later, Grandpa's health dipped, not dramatically, just enough to remind the world he was mortal. The calls started again, this time laced with concern. Is he okay? Does this change succession? Who speaks for him now? I answered none of them directly. Instead, I released a statement. All operations continue as designed. That word unsettled people. Systems imply permanence. Intent. My brother saw the statement on a shared TV in the holding area. His knuckles whitened. He's still playing, he muttered. Always? When Grandpa returned home from the hospital, he looked smaller but lighter, like someone who'd finally set something heavy down. You don't have to do everything, he told me as I helped him inside. I know, I said. But I will. He nodded, approval without applause. That night, he asked for it in his hands. The same one. The joke. The key. He traced the worn edges with his thumb. People forget, he said quietly, that banks don't store money, they store memory. I understood then this wasn't just revenge. It was correction. History being put back in order. My brother's wife filed for separation 2 days later. The filing leaked within hours. She cited irreconcilable differences and financial misrepresentation. He read the document slowly, lips moving as if trying to translate a foreign language. Alone now, truly, in the mirror. He barely recognized himself without the armor of certainty. Without the chorus of yes men. Without the illusion that his voice decided reality. He sat on the narrow bed and laughed once, short, cruel. At himself. The board reconvened at my request. This time, there were no questions about authority. One member tried to hedge. If public pressure grows, I raised a hand. Pressure is useful. It shows where things are weak. No one argued. Contracts were revised. Bonuses restructured. Quiet audits began. Every move was legal. Every step documented. Nothing to attack. That frustrated people most. One evening, as rain streaked the windows, I received a message from an unknown number. You think this ends me? I stared at it, then deleted it. Some endings don't need witnesses. Grandpa watched the rain beside me. He will try again, he said calmly. I know. Let him, Grandpa replied. A man who has lost his footing only knows how to grab. The rain grew heavier, blurring the city into smears of light. Somewhere in that blur, my brother planned. He always did. But planning without leverage is just wishing. Weeks passed. The tightening continued, not violently. Inevitably. Regulators finished reviews. Partners renegotiated on worse terms or left. A house went on the market. Then another. My brother's name slipped from event invitations, then from conversations. Obscurity arrived quietly like dust. One afternoon, Grandpa asked me to drive him to the old bank branch, the original one. Smaller now. Almost forgotten. The manager recognized him instantly and came around the desk. Everything is proceeding as intended, he said. Grandpa nodded. Good. As we turned to leave, Grandpa stopped, looked back at the counters, the walls, the floor worn smooth by decades of footsteps. People think revenge is about hurting, he said softly. It's not. He didn't finish the thought. He never needed to. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds. I checked my phone. Another alert. Another story. Another step in a process that no longer required my attention every second. It was moving on its own now. Like a machine built long ago, finally switched on. And somewhere in a room too quiet for lies, my brother sat with nothing but time. Understanding at last what that passbook truly meant. Still, the call came at dawn. Not from a lawyer, not from a journalist, from my brother. His voice was thinner than I remembered. Not weak, emptied. Dade's condition, he asked. He's asleep. A pause. Long. Careful. I don't have anything left, my brother said. No drama. No anger, just a statement. The house is gone. Accounts closed. Friends vanished. Then, barely audible. I didn't know it would feel like this. I leaned against the window, watching the city wake up. This, I replied, is what reality sounds like when it finally speaks. Another silence. This one heavier. I came by the house yesterday, he said. They wouldn't let me in? They weren't supposed to? I answered, a breath on the line. Shaky. I just wanted the passbook, he said. I don't know why. I closed my eyes. That passbook, I said slowly, was never about money. It was about permission. To what? He asked. To underestimate him, I replied. And to overestimate yourself, he didn't argue. I used to think power was loud, he said after a moment. Deals. Applause. Fear, a bitter last wrong. Yes, I said. You were? The line went quiet. Tell Dad, he started, then stopped. No, never mind. The call ended. I didn't call back. That evening, Grandpa asked to sit outside. The sky burned orange and purple, the kind of sunset people photograph and forget to feel. He held the passbook one last time, then placed it on the table between us. Tomorrow, he said calmly. I looked at him. All of it? Yes? No hesitation. Some doors, he continued, exist only to be opened once. I nodded. He turned to me, eyes steady. Did he call? Wes. What did he say? Nothing that mattered, I replied. Grandpa smiled, not with satisfaction but with relief. Good, he said. Then it's complete. The next morning, the account was closed. The trust settled. The structures dissolved. The machine powered down cleanly, permanently. No headlines. No noise. Just finality. Weeks later, I saw my brother once, from across a street. He wore no suit, no watch. Just a jacket too thin for the weather. He didn't see me. For the first time in his life, he blended in. I kept walking. People still ask how it happened, how an empire vanished, how a laughing man became a footnote. I never answer. Because the truth is simple, and cruel in its precision. He mocked a gift without understanding the giver. He laughed at silence without knowing what it hid. He called something a zero, that was, in fact, everything. And by the time he learned the difference, there was nothing left to take back.